Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. Well, the Cavs played 3 games since we last recorded and had a bunch of injuries that we were not anticipating. The shorthanded Cavs went 1-2 over that stretch, but have bounced back with a win over the Brooklyn Nets. Joining me today to discuss that, to discuss the upcoming game against the Pistons, is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. It's just there's a certain kind of karma, or a certain kind of energy, not karma. It's like just the fact that James breaks his hand in a game that he does not get a free throw attempt. The fact that, this team that's just been cursed with injuries, trades for 3 new guys and all 3 get hurt right away. It's some real pets heads falling off energy. But with that said, it feels like they've generally dodged bullets. Like Dennis didn't miss any time. James only missed the 1 game so far. Obviously, it was a big one against Detroit. And Keon only missed, or did he miss 2?
Yeah, he missed the Milwaukee game as well.
Yep, you're right. And same with Keon.
Yes,
my brain is melting. Point is, seems
Keon
like
played Milwaukee, and then yeah.
It seems like
it all blends together. This is what happens when you schedule 7 games in 10 days after the All-Star break, man.
And like 8 and 12. It's crazy after Tuesday. But ultimately it feels like they've mostly dodged the bullet. They're mostly going to be okay and get healthy. Obviously, they have 4 days off after Tuesday. They've already ruled Donovan Mitchell, who also is hurt with a groin injury, out from that game. So he's going to basically have like a week and some change off himself to kind of recover. And I don't know. I will say before I want to talk about the games, but I think it's probably worth saying that this little stretch, this 1-2 stretch, might have adjusted my expectations for where I think the Cavs will end up in the Eastern Conference. Like that, they're 4 games back of the Boston Celtics in the loss column, as you always astutely point out. That's the only one that matters because you can make up wins, you can't make up losses. And the Celtics have the tiebreaker, so really they're 5 games ahead of them in practice, or 5 losses ahead of them in practice. Are you at the point now where you're just kind of not thinking 2 seed anymore? Obviously, I still think they should try to win as many games. Well, maybe it's not obvious. We can talk about it. I think they should probably try to win as many games as possible, but it does feel like the 2 seed feels pretty far away with about 20 games left.
It does feel further away. I think it's possible. I had some hope tonight where Boston was playing without Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Tatum was out. Kata's out as well.
And Giannis is back.
And Giannis was back, but they're currently down 14. So go figure that team refuses to die. Yeah, I think it casts some doubts on how realistic it is, right?
Yep.
Obviously we still have that one matchup against Boston that's left. Dropping a game that we kind of penciled in as a win against Milwaukee, that's tough, right? Losing the game against Detroit, that hurt quite a bit too, right? Like I think without those 2 games, you might still be thinking that the 1 seed's possible, but there's only so much runway here. Those were also just really tough games to lose, right? Like the Milwaukee one, you're really, really shorthanded. Jared Allen has a fantastic performance. He gets the buzzer beater to go, but it's just on his fingers a hair too late. The Detroit game could not have been more like game 2 against the Indiana Pacers, where there were 4 calls that were horrifically blown. If any call goes the Cavs' way, they win that game. But even with that being said, even with the injuries, there were things that were within their control that they could have still won that game. That was the case at game 2 against Indy. That was the case with that game as well. So it's disappointing, but it's also understandable. I take some responsibility for the way that the injuries have gone because I was stupid enough to say, well, now that the availability issue has been solved, I was just kind of teasing and taunting the universe to prove me wrong. But I agree. I think it's an uphill battle. And the other thing is like, just because it's an uphill battle, I still, as you said, I want to try to win every single game that's possible here.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because if you're not going to get the 2 seed, you don't guarantee home court advantage to the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a question of like, basically, if you're going to be on the road in round 2, would you rather play the Boston Celtics or would you rather play the Detroit Pistons? And I gotta say, I don't think they should, manipulate things and or whatever it may be to like manufacture a matchup. But I won't lie to you, buddy. I do feel better about a Pistons matchup than I feel about a Celtics matchup.
Power ranking time. Give me your top 3 who you'd rather play. So the team that you'd like to play the least. For me, I agree with you. I think Boston's that team just because there is that championship equity there. They find ways to win. I think some of the underlying metrics are a little bit more encouraging. Like you look at Detroit, they're a poor half court offense, right? That is something that comes back to bite teams in the playoffs. I think from a individual matchup standpoint, the Cavs bigs always eat on the interior, right? Like the people that don't pay attention to the Cavs that you commentate on the league nationally and just kind of generalize, you'll usually hear, like Detroit's got those tough, the interior toughness and the bigs, like they're going to beat them up the same way the Knicks did, which kind of ignores that historically the Cavs bigs do incredibly well against Detroit. This is usually a matchup that they thrive in, right? It's just kind of generalizing and going off of assumptions, just like people would bring up, the 2 bigs or the 2 smalls or whatever the case may be. So for me, I probably respect Detroit. Like I respect all of these teams, to be clear, but it would be Boston, New York, and Detroit for me in that order.
It's a tricky one with Detroit versus New York, because here's the thing, dude. Detroit has been like a historically great basketball team. They have a plus 7.9 point differential. They have the best record in the league. They have a better win percentage than the OKC Thunder. And like there is a part of me that's just like, matchups be damned, half court offense be damned. It's got to matter at some point that they're 7 games better than the New York Knicks. But I still agree with you. I think I'd rather play Detroit out of any of those 3 teams. And then I did want to ask you the question, because the other thing about the 3 or the 4 seed here is your matchup in the first round, where you are probably, just based on where the standings are, you are probably looking at either the Toronto Raptors if you stay in the 4 seed, or the Philadelphia 76ers if you stay in the 6 seed. And you're allowed to have the answer, I don't care about either of those teams, because if we can't beat them, we're not that good anyway.
Well, I would rather play Toronto because I want to beat Toronto. like that is a personal bias thing. And also just, we know what Philadelphia does to me. And going into a series where if Harden's free throw rate continues into that series and Philly's getting to the line, that's going to drive me absolutely insane. So I do not want to see that. I agree in general. Like I would not do anything to manipulate standings, right? And one, just from a karma standpoint, that always freaks me out. And 2, there's a new group of guys here, right? Like we only have so many of these games. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about the timing of these injuries was this was the stretch where we're like, hey, yeah, they're playing a lot of games and we understand from a schedule fatigue standpoint that this is going to be tough. But like these are the only kind of litmus test matchups that they have left on their schedule before things get incredibly easy. So to have Donovan Mitchell miss time here, to have James Harden miss time, but before coming back against Brooklyn, to be without Dean Wade, which we already know how vulnerable that kind of backup power forward spot is without him, And even losing Keon Ellis for a game, like the injuries that they had, it's just the worst possible timing because we are losing data points and we are losing opportunities for this team to test themselves against tougher competition, because playing some of these other teams that they're going to be playing the rest of the season here, the biggest obstacle that they have to probably overcome is staying engaged and actually like getting up to give 100% effort.
Yeah, I think you're spot on that the reason you have to play is because you got to get to know each other. You got to stress each other. You got to test kind of what the ceiling of what you're doing is. And like ultimately we just don't really know this team very well. I'm not sure Kenny knows this team really well still.
They don't know each other very well yet.
Yeah, and like obviously
in terms of these new pieces.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of positive reporting about the James Donovan on court experience, and that they feel like they're not like running, kind of like running or perpendicular to each other. Like they're not in sync, but like there still is a ceiling that needs to be hit. Like you don't have the level of reps with each other that this Detroit team has, this Boston team has, this Knicks team has. So I do feel like they have to explore to the best of their ability where they're going to go, and kind of, and not if not for the stars, but for the role players, like a guy like Jaylen Tyson, who I want to talk about later. I don't want to talk about him right now, but I feel like he's in kind of his first protracted run of like just okay play of the year, where he's back to being pretty reliant on the 3-point shot. To kind of go in and for him to have a good game, and if it doesn't, maybe he doesn't have such a good game. Like everyone's got to get comfortable with each other again, and I hope that they're able to get healthy enough over the coming weeks to do that.
Yeah, and I really hope that anybody listening to this podcast isn't surprised by this stance, right? Like that we want to see this team make the most of the games that are left, right? And use this opportunity to get back in sync, because anyone listening to this podcast should know that teams move fastest when everyone's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. The most frustrating thing to me about this stretch is the Milwaukee game. I thought we would get still, right, with the guys that were available. I thought we had a good chance. That they competed hard. I wasn't upset with the effort. Dennis Schroeder had a really good game. It sucks to see Kevin Porter Jr. hit a game-winning shot against us. But the Detroit one, man, like I was
a game I happened to be in the room for.
Yeah, hey, that's pretty damn cool.
The buzzer was quite the experience, let me tell you, brother.
Okay, please, yeah,
it was clear in the arena. It was, I think there was a brief moment when it wouldn't turn off that people were like, "Is this like part of game ops?" Like, because there was like music playing and it was like kind of like a party. And then it very quickly became apparent that it was not a game ops thing. It was bananas. Like everyone around me was like, Have you ever seen anything like this? No.
I got tripped up there because when you said that you were at the game, I was like, oh God, the first thing that popped in my head was the buzzer. And I'm like, I don't want to derail the podcast talking about it. But like, that was so over the top ridiculous.
I'll say it, not as annoying as you would think. Because it was
also spend like for that thing to go off for 12 minutes is one thing, but you have to listen to me for like an hour and a half a week on the mic. So I think you have kind of put in the sweat equity to get annoyed.
You're like the Charlie Brown adult, but it's just a horn.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that there was a chance that they could compete, right? Like I was thinking back to I don't remember if it was last year or the year prior where Darius and Donovan were both out and Evan and Jarrett just kind of went to town, right? Like they were feasting on the inside. I think they got Jalen Duren in foul trouble. Like they have been enough, even though that this is a better Detroit team. But I just kind of had that confidence build throughout the night. I was really, really impressed with the effort. And, Chris Fedor had the report after the game that kind of the overwhelming sentiment in the locker room was one of confidence, that they feel that they match up well against this team. And man, I've seen pushback to that. What was kind of your reaction to that?
You know, I I don't mind it. It's not like anyone went out in public and said it, you know. It's like I think there is like a degree of like humbleness you should probably have as a team in terms of like the outward message you're sending. But
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm sitting here saying I'd rather play Detroit than any other team, top team in the East, it'd be pretty silly for me to hold that against the actual players who might happen to agree with that opinion. And again, we don't know. We don't know who said it. I don't believe it was attributed to anyone. But I just think like these guys are like they know ball and they know that they even when they're not at their best, they've been pretty darn even with this Detroit team. And when they've been playing well, they've completely stifled them. I do have some thoughts about the matchup that in terms.
I just
yeah,
want,
go ahead. Go ahead.
but before we move off that, I have seen the sentiment, what has this team proved, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this team has matched up really well against Detroit. I think it's fair to say that they've had their number over the last couple of years here, even as Detroit has got better. Nobody said, "Hey, well, what have the New York Knicks done when they would talk trash against the Cleveland Cavaliers?" Right? Like it never was that. It was, "Oh yeah, well, they had their number. They play well against them." Right? Like this team has a little bit more of an edge now, right? And they are embracing that personality. It's a double-edged sword, of course, when you talk some trash or whatever the case may be. But the fact that this team is playing with a little bit of confidence and they feel good about their chances, you have to, just like when they earned expectations, you knew that if they fell short of them, you are going to get more noise than you would otherwise when you're just sneaking in the play-in or whatever. Same thing comes with this kind of territory, right? I don't mind it at all. For the major, like this goes back to my whole thing about the narrative around whether or not teams are scared of another team. I just don't think anybody is scared of anybody in the NBA. I think you're going to have reverence for teams that have won a championship, but Detroit's getting hit with the same stuff that the Cavs were hit last year. And, we've just seen too much of this kind of formula where a team that struggles in the half court offensively, that doesn't have a lot of shooting. Obviously, there were questions about JB Bickerstaff and what he can do offensively in the playoffs and just overall game management in the playoffs. Like, I think it is fair to have some doubts and concerns about how far Detroit can go, right? And you're right. The record speaks for itself. It is fantastic. But at the same time, even though the other teams behind them, with the exception of Boston, haven't really proved anything, I think we've seen from the Knicks, there was an extended stretch where their effort wasn't there. We obviously saw that at the start of the season with the Cavs. There were a lot of injuries that factored in, right? They were just kind of that team that was very healthy and reliably beating the teams that were below them, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you should be doing. And they've played really well in some matchups against the West. And obviously they seem to have the Knicks number, but I'm perfectly fine with this.
Yeah, I am too. I'll tell you someone who really did earn my respect in that game, especially like watching up close, being in the arena, is Jalen Duren, man. I gotta tell you, that was a matchup that I didn't have a lot of concern about. Like we saw them really do a good job on like Bam Adebayo last year, like a big man, a strong man. No doubt, but the Cavs are built to, protect the rim against those kinds of players. And the amounts of finishes through contact, through both contests from both bigs at the same time, where I'm waiting to see, I'm just expecting a miss. I'm expecting a contested miss. He just finished over and over and over again. He got to the line. He beat them up on the offensive boards. He was an all-star this year. He deserved it. I think he's been, one of the best 2 or 3 bigs in the East this year. But I was kind of still a little skeptical of like how it would look in against a set defense, especially after Cade fouled out. And I thought he was great. If there is a player that is going to have to kill the Cavs, if the Pistons are going to beat the Cavs in a series, it does feel like Duren is one of those swing guys.
Yeah, the battle of the interior is going to be kind of one of the main things there. And my commentary, my commentary on Detroit, like, has nothing to do with Cade and Duren. Like, I think Cade deserves to be in the MVP conversations. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I'm a big fan of Jaylen Duren. Like, I think the toughness he plays with, how much he's improved defensively, I think that hasn't been talked about enough, even though he gets talked about a lot. And I think that there is touch there. There is, he's a real threat offensively now. So I'm big fan of those two. And I just feel like it's very similar to the year that the Cavs played the Knicks in the playoffs, where I believe in the kind of core centerpieces of this team. I just have a lot of questions about the overall shooting around them.
Yeah, they're just young too, like a lot of these guys, like Sar Thompson needs a lot of testing, and what happens when he gets completely ignored? Like, the Pistons shot 22% from 3 in this game. I mean, we can maybe have the foul up 3 conversation there, especially in this matchup. But like, and even Cade cooked in this game. He had 25 points on 21 shots. And a lot of that was mid-rangers over point guards who probably won't be guarding him if the Cavs are healthy against them in a series. A mid-ranger over Dennis Schroeder is very different than a mid-ranger over Dean Wade.
Or even throwing Keon Ellis on him, right?
Yep.
Like, who wasn't available in that game. And I thought Evan, I thought he had a very good game. It was obvious that he was getting fatigued towards the end of it, which I think makes sense. He played 37 minutes in that game. He probably hasn't played over 30 minutes in a month and a half heading into that, right? So I thought that was understandable. The foul up 3, I think people know that is, like, we just don't love that strategy to begin with. But I will say, I don't think that the Jaylen Tyson was supposed to foul in that spot, right? Like, Dennis Jenkins had already left his feet and was basically in the shooting motion when he reached in there. You just kind of let that go, right? And you allow that attempt to go up. Worst case is he makes it, but it definitely was frustrating to have that called, and then to have Sam Merrill. Arguably, I would say, given what we saw on Christmas, there's probably an argument that was a flagrant foul that wasn't called on Sam Merrill.
Yeah, it's also, like, I gotta say, it really does bother me. I know no one likes challenges. I just hate running out of challenges when you haven't lost one. Like, that's one of my pet peeves that, like, I know is not a very popular take, but I just feel like, because I even feel the other side, where I feel like I've got an advantage if the opposing team has won 2 challenges.
Yeah.
And, like, I just don't want to feel...
It can't be reviewed, right?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to feel like I've got a leg up because the ref might make a mistake and the other team can't do anything about it. That doesn't feel great to me. So if were I in charge, maybe you find other ways to cut down the length of the reviews or whatever it may be, cap it at a minute or whatever, there's all sorts of hoop ideas.
I still want to see, like, the command center or in Secaucus, like, basically when they go to the monitor, have them review it and tell the refs on the floor what it should be, right? Like, have
also stops those refs from getting screamed at unnecessarily.
Right. And
not that anyone will care.
It also takes their ego out of it, right? Like, if they don't want to admit that they made a wrong call or whatever the case may be, right? Like, just allow it to happen.
Now, plus the review can start happening faster.
Like, by the time they walk to the monitor and put their headset on, you can't tell me that the NBA Replay Center hasn't already reviewed and can give them basically a determination on, like, the majority of these calls.
Yeah, I agree. There is a little strategic thing that I'm a little worried about with the Cavs, because they got blown off the floor in the first quarter against OKC with this, and then I think they lost in overtime because of this. Teams are really overplaying the pocket pass when things get a little tight. And against OKC and against Detroit late, we saw just like 3 or 4 possessions in a row where it's just pick six, where it's like they need to figure out kind of what the counter is to that overplay.
Yeah.
To that third body coming in and mucking up the role, because right now teams are figuring out that if they can't stop that pocket pass, they're in a lot of trouble with how Jarrett is finishing and having Evan back lurking on the weak side, or inverse, and being able to pass, to shovel the ball to the other, and it feels like blowing up that action is the number one way to, at the very least, muck up what the Cavs are doing. I don't think it's blitzing the ball handler. I don't actually think that's working well at all.
I want teams to continue to blitz James Harden, particularly when Donovan's available. Like, I think you saw it a little bit with the Nets, that they were just throwing guys at him. I think Harden's going to make the right decision in the majority of those situations, but I agree with you. I think there is obviously an emphasis to go with the pocket pass to feed the bigs. That's been working so well. Jarrett really, like, over these 3 games, he was fantastic, right? Like,
man, I love that man.
He averaged 24 points per game over that stretch, shot 27 of 39 from the field. And when you consider James didn't play for 2 of those games, right? Like, that just goes to show you just where he's at. I think the level of aggressiveness he's shown has been fantastic, but
and he shouldn't have fouled out against the Pistons in the first place.
Yeah, that was tough. On a pretty clear-cut, clean block. That was definitely frustrating. My hope, I agree with you. Like, I think that they're vulnerable to turnovers in this situation, and I think the turnovers kind of illustrate my point of why they need to prioritize continuing to win over this stretch, because I think some of that is a lack of familiarity, and some of that is, hey, we transitioned from one of the most responsible playmakers in the league in Darius Garland to guys that do turn the ball over a little bit more, right? Like, Dennis Schroeder was productive against Detroit, but he didn't shoot well from the field. 12 and 9 is great, but he had 8 turnovers. Harden, I'm going to excuse some of the 5 turnovers against Brooklyn because he's playing with a fractured thumb. But he is someone that, turns the ball over 1.5 to 2 times more per game than Darius, right? Like, that is now part of the equation, that the Cavs are probably going to be a team that turns the ball a little bit over a little more frequently. And we already had some possession battle concerns, right, when it comes to things like offensive rebounds. Even though they're in the middle of the pack when it comes to defensive rebounding, we have seen that sometimes the wheels can just kind of fall off the wagon there. You can't compound that issue with a lot of live ball turnovers, right? So my hope is that they're still getting familiar with one another. They're in a stretch where they're playing a ton of games, right? We talked about how grueling the schedule is. So they're kind of leaning on the bread and butter, right? Like, let's really kind of stick with this, and they can expand their offensive profile a little bit more as they get more comfortable. That's my hope, at least. But I do think you're correct in kind of pointing that out as, hey, this might be something that comes back to bite them. The other thing, they need to lobby the NBA for no afternoon playoff games, because this team does not play well in the afternoon.
No, these are not a group of morning lads.
No,
they need a good night's sleep. They need to stick to their routine. Yeah, these afternoon games have not been kind to this team. But, like, at the very least, they escaped against the Nets. Dealer's choice. Would you like to talk about Keon Ellis being an absolute maniac, or Jaylen Tyson finding his way?
I like how you phrase that. It just made me think of the little puppy that lost his way.
I was dancing around a reference without making one.
But before we get to that, I just want to tie a bow, just kind of mentioning that, Craig and Dennis, little up and down in this stretch. I think that's understandable given Donovan and James being out. But both of them kind of really struggled in that game against Detroit. Craig was productive, but didn't shoot particularly well from the field. Dennis bounced back well against Brooklyn. He basically was as productive as he was against Detroit, but on way fewer shots and took better care of the basketball. So nice to see him bounce back. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had one more thing about the two guards being referenced. Made me think of it. Saw some folks kind of grumbling here and there during the Nets game about some of the ultra small lineups that were getting run out in the second half. like I just think like guys, you got to look at availability and performance sometimes. Like yes, they did play some minutes with Dennis, Craig, James and Keon. Like and then Thomas Bryant. I think that was the five that
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, what are they doing? They can't. It's like, guys, Mobley, they're trying to manage Mobley's minutes. Dean Wade is hurt, and Naquan Tomlin is going through probably the worst protracted stretch of his young NBA career right now. And his minutes in the first half were really, really rough. And Kenny wanted to play the guys who were playing a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, you could absolutely split hairs. You could say, hey, he should. I don't care how bad Naquan's shift was. Don't run that lineup. Or you could say, hey, I know Naquan wasn't great, and I know Larry's had a rough year, but I'd still like to see Larry in those minutes. And like, you could talk me into some of that maybe. But it's not
Larry there.
Yeah, but it's not like malpractice. Is I guess my point.
No, like I fully understood it. Right,
like Kenny's not operating with a full deck of cards from a roster availability standpoint, and like while it didn't go great, it wasn't like a devastating thing, and like I think it was a very defensible lineup.
I messaged you in the game, I think it was in our game threads where I said I think I'd like to see Leary here. I didn't say it in the 3-4 guard lineup. I said it when Naquan was out there in the second half. Like if you're going to play
Naquan did not play in the second half.
Oh well, then maybe it was in the first half that I was already done.
He only played 5 minutes in that game.
Okay, so Naquan was on the court when I messaged. That's there's my recollection. I wasn't feeling great yesterday, but yeah, I totally understood where they were coming from. Little bit of an encouraging injury update where Dean Wade has been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow against Detroit. It'd be great to have him,
brother.
I think we have continued to see, and I think that was one of our biggest kind of question marks coming out of the trade deadline is, hey, we're still very reliant on Dean Wade, and that is kind of one of those.
Boy, are we!
That's one of those really, really big X factors coming into the playoffs, because we do actually, for the first time, have a third big that I feel good about playing. I like Thomas Bryant's minutes. I think as a backup center, he is a fine option, but that means you don't have something proven at backup power forward, right? And the best available option is your current starting small forward sliding on over. And we have seen there's questions with availability. There's been questions with kind of confidence and performance in the playoffs. There's just
your next best option is a guy who hasn't played this year.
Right.
Like if Max comes back, he's played a lot of power forward minutes on good teams.
It's a very good point. It's him or it's Jaylen Tyson, right? And I think the interesting thing with Jaylen Tyson is we're seeing it now, and I think it's true. Same thing as it's true with Dean Wade is we don't know what we're going to get in the playoffs, right? Like it's one thing to say this is a guy that plays with a lot of toughness and a lot of confidence. I trust Jaylen to play tough, and I trust him to play confidently, but there are still some of these habits, right? Like I thought there was some dumb fouls late in that game against Detroit, not just the reach in at the end, but even that call that got reversed where he had his jersey held. He didn't really need to kind of extend and push off that clearly in that spot. That's one of those calls that could go either way and could have been devastating if we hadn't won the challenge, right? So obviously he did a lot of good things. He played 40 minutes. That's an exhausting thing. So it's understandable for him to make some mistakes in that situation. I think that late offensive rebound he got, that was fantastic.
Yep.
But it's a big unknown of how he's going to perform in the playoffs. And for a team that has a lot of aspirations for this season, that wants to make a run to the NBA Finals, those are two really big kind of swing pieces in both Dean Wade and Jaylen Tyson that we are going to be learning a lot about over the next couple months.
All right, you've opened the door. I'm making you pick Jaylen Tyson because it's a better segue. Last 11 games, Justin, Jaylen Tyson is shooting 43% from the field. He is shooting 40% from three, still on 4.3 attempts. He's shooting 46% from two on 4.9 attempts. But a couple things that are jumping out to me is the 2-point volume is kind of going down, which makes sense. You've added some more ball handlers to the fold, not just James, but also Dennis, that are going to eat up a little bit more usage. But the assist to turnover ratio is really both assists and turnovers are way down. He only has averaged 1.2 assists in his last 11 games, 1.4 turnovers, and I think he's in only 1.9 free throw attempts. So it just kind of feels like he's not figuring out his spots to absorb usage. And I don't know what to make of it. I feel like the defense has still been pretty okay.
Yep.
There's timely shot making in big moments from three. Feels like the in-between game isn't quite as automatic as it's been. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, how concerned, like, I guess my question to you is this the Jaylen Tyson we should expect the rest of the way? Because, like, you look at the numbers in those 11 games, and it's like, it's fine. 11 and 5 in 26 minutes on okay, and in some cases, good shooting percentages from three. But it doesn't feel as impactful. And it's like, is that good enough? Or should we be hoping for better?
I don't think so. I think the numbers are fine. I think how they are being produced, I'm not fully comfortable with, right? And this gets back to what we've talked about, where I do think that Jaylen Tyson needs to remain empowered to get some ball handling reps. I think some of those have just kind of gone away. Some of that is a product of playing more power forward and kind of rolling to the basket. And like what you highlighted with both the assists and turnovers being down, to me, that kind of points towards a simplification of the role, right? Like he is getting those catch and shoot opportunities. He's getting it when he slips those screens. He gets the floater opportunity. But you're not kind of seeing some of the ball handling reps that we saw before. He's not playing as much as a wing. He's kind of almost going into like that George Niang role and doing a much better job of it. But, kind of a simple play finisher role. And I think that the playmaking and creation is something that we're going to need. I think you need that front court creation in order for this offense to be playoff proof, in order to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. But again, double-edged sword, because that comes with kind of an exaggerated downside, because this is a guy that hasn't really proved it, right? Like this is someone that probably deserves to be in the running for most improved player this season. I probably don't have a comprehensive list of guys that would be eligible for the award, but he would certainly be near the top for me as a homer. But, it's still unproven for a team that has a lot of expectations. The flip side of that is I don't think that there's another option. Like unless Max comes back and he's fully healthy, like you can rely on Max for some of it. But even Max at his best, I don't think that was necessarily enough playmaking from the wing within the front court to make up for some of the shortcomings that we've seen with the offense. Maybe it would be different with James. That's completely possible. But I do think that Jaylen Tyson needs to be involved from a playmaking standpoint, because I think it has an impact on his confidence as well.
Yeah, it feels like the whole package just gets a little bit more involved. He feels like a little bit more dangerous attacking in transition. I mean, we've seen just not enough attempts from two, I think. And some of that is Jarrett. You have to account for the fact that Jarrett is just soaking up usage right now. But as we're seeing teams overplay the pocket pass, this is where I want to see your wings provide that supplementary playmaking and create that secondary option for your attack that isn't just catch and shoot. So that it's a marginal concern because he's playing fine. He's just not like a world beater like he was in January.
Yeah.
And I just think it's worth paying attention to as we get through the rest of the year. But enough of the downer talk. Let's talk about Keon 8 stock Ellis.
One more thing. I think it's fair to note that Jaylen did roll his ankle and he is playing a little banged up. That might be part of this too, right? Like that might be part of the usage equation. We don't know yet. But how he's used definitely needs to be monitored. Keon Ellis, I have no questions about how he's going to be used because when he is out there, he plays his game. He is an absolute menace. I love his intensity. I love how he plays basketball. I love that he is a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. 5 blocks is nuts. Adding 3 steals to that is insane. The stocks have never been higher. This, like, we don't see this out of almost anybody, right? And we've had so few kind of wing options for the Cavs that generate these types of stats that provide that event defense that can be so devastating. We've seen those type of players bother us in the playoffs. We've seen those types of players derail the Cavs when they get turnover prone and things like that. It is such a spark to your team to have someone that comes in and brings that type of effort. And I'm very, very, very excited and happy to have Keon Ellis on this team. Thank you, Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, he's awesome. You mentioned we haven't had a lot of guys like that. It was kind of supposed to be Shump. I saw Danny Cunningham make that comp, not coming from the dome over here. But the thing about Shump is Shump had the fast hands, but he didn't have the energy level. You know, like he wasn't this chaotic and committed to the chaos. And I think the combination of the fast hands with this level of activity is really what's made the early era Keon Ellis special. Like the play, I forget who he got the steal on. Maybe it was Danny Wolf. I don't know. There's a lot of interchangeable looking lads
gentlemen
on the Brooklyn Nets. But just a play where he kind of stripped down, he kind of made chaos, and then they tried to get it back, and then he knocked it away again. And it was like very clear, like he was operating at like 1.25 speed, and everyone else on the floor's hands were going just a little bit slower. It's like those Quicksilver montages in the X-Men movies, where he's just like at a different tempo with what his hands are able to do. And it's something this Cavs team is just so desperately needed. It's just that element of chaos defensively because you've got this crazy back line. And that is something we talked about a little bit is like you are allowed to play more chaotically when you have a back line who can protect you. And like that's what we're getting to see a lot with Keon. And like the thing that's kind of wild, Justin, is he's not even making or really taking that many threes so far. Like he's only at 33% on like I think 1.5 threes less per 36 from the attempts perspective. Like if he starts getting the volume like we got to see in that Milwaukee game, but but less as a requirement due to injury, but because he's just left open as the best option to ignore, like man, you're really going to be cooking with gas from there.
Yeah, and that's one of the other key differences with a Shump comp, right? Like Amon shot 33% for his career. He shot 33% for the Cavs, right? Keon's in a bit of a funk, or I wouldn't even call it a funk, right? Like
he just isn't shooting well yet.
Yeah, it's such low volume, but look, he's a career 41% three-point shooter on very good volume, right? Like he's up over that 700 career attempts, where 700 is usually that marker where things start to normalize. So you can expect some positive regression when it comes to him. It's really, really helpful to have someone that plays that way because I feel like we were trying to play that style earlier in the season and it didn't always mesh with the personnel. Like I think Donovan has been good, like bit of an up and down year defensively for Donovan. I think you've seen since the trade, since adding James Harden, teams are going at him a whole lot more defensively, right? Like it used to be, okay, well, we had the 6'1" guard that teams can set one screen and get their wing onto. We like that matchup. Now you don't really have that as an option with James. So I think teams are targeting Don more and more off ball, right? Like they are playing a lot of actions. They are trying to take advantage of him and target him defensively. But one area where I do feel like he's been good is jumping passing lanes, getting steals, being active with his hands. I think Sam's done a good job with that. I think we have guys that can generate those event stats, but Keon just takes it to another level. And one thing that I'm keeping an eye on is as we approach the playoffs and even when we get to the playoffs, there's a volatility with Dennis Schroeder's game that if Keon continues to play this way and continue to earn the trust of Kenny Atkinson, I can see us simplifying the ball handling to, hey, we've got Donovan, we've got James, we hopefully have Max back, we have Jaylen that can do a little ball handling. Let's just kind of lean on Keon, and Keon kind of eats into Dennis's minutes to some extent. I can definitely see that as a possibility because I like the energy that Dennis brings, but there is just such a volatility with possession by possession, both offensively and defensively when it comes to him.
Yeah, and he's not a guy who's going to get guarded as much as a shooter when he is off ball. Right. That's something that one of the challenges of the super small lineup that Kenny ran out against Brooklyn is that people aren't guarding Craig and people aren't guarding Dennis. So all the extra foot speed in the world doesn't help if you're driving into a lane with three guys in it. Yeah. So I agree with you. I mean, man, it's tough because Dennis has been such a good game changer for us at different points. I'd almost have, but I do think I would rather see Jaylen be providing enough of that supplementary playmaking that allows Keon to take some of those minutes when fully healthy. Same with Max, obviously, and Dennis can be your, oh man, we need two guards on the floor at all times option.
It's good to have good options, right? Like, yeah, it's none of this is a criticism. It's Kenny's going to have some tough decisions to make, right? Particularly if Max comes back and starts playing like himself. So we'll see. Obviously, tomorrow the Cavs are playing against the Pistons. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. Part of why I like, the trash talk is it's not like, hey, we're not playing these guys again. Maybe we'll see them in the playoffs. Let's talk a little trash. They're playing them right away. I'm sure the Pistons are treating that as bulletin board material. I'm excited to see what that matchup is. Even without Donovan Mitchell, we will see if Dean Wade's available, but nice to have James Harden back. I was pleased with his game against Detroit. I thought Mobley Brooklyn. I thought Mobley looked good against Brooklyn. Let's see how they do in that game, and we will be back on Wednesday. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.